Hey guys, Vladimir here with Desktop Makes, and I was inspired by Devin with Make Anything YouTube channel. Devin had this video he put up called Super Satisfying Twist Containers. So he basically designed a bunch of these little containers. As you can see, it is very, very satisfying. So I thought this would be a great project to go ahead and do a tutorial for, showing how to use Fusion 360 to tackle this design. So my approach was I went ahead and modeled a bunch of these. It was a lot of trial and error before I got that perfect fit. For example, you know, this one was just way too loose, and this one was just a little too tight. So, you know, as the process with 3D printing, there's a lot of iteration that takes place. But once I got it down where I was able to get that nice smooth twists, I went ahead and made these guys. I just took the same model and just scaled it up to my maximum size on my, I did this on my Prusa Mark II printer. So we'll go ahead and jump into Fusion 360. Let me show you guys how to make your own. But I want you to stay tuned because I already have another idea cooking. And I won't reveal everything yet, but I will tell you that it involves an Arduino, servo motor, magnet, and my twisty container. So you probably have an idea of where I'm going with this, but if you want to see, you know, the full project, just stay tuned because this will be my next video. All right, let's go ahead and jump into Fusion. All right, let's begin the spiral vase design, and I'll point out that there are numerous ways you can actually approach this using Fusion 360, and I may do a tutorial later showing you how to actually approach this using the sculpting environment. But for now, we're going to stick in the modeling environment, and I'll show you one way of tackling this. I'm going to move fairly quick through this, but if you do want a more slower approach to designing, where I do explain every step thoroughly, I would recommend checking out my design courses. I've got a couple of them now on my website that you can check out at desktopmakes.com. Alright, let's begin, and I'm gonna start by creating a sketch on the XY plane, and I'll hit C for center diameter circle and enter a circle of diameter 50 millimeters. Now stop sketch, and let's go ahead and hit E for extrude, and we'll extrude this up. We'll make this 100 millimeters. Now that we have our cylinder, the approach is going to be to create a coil around this. So we'll go to create form, and we'll go down to coil, and I can either select the top or the bottom face here. I'll select that bottom face, and I'll start at the origin and snap it to this outer perimeter here, which should match to our 50 millimeter circle that we created. And I'll get this sort of pink shape showing me what my coil looks like. Now I can grab this handle here and just drag it up to change the direction of the movement, or of the direction of the coil here. And I'll quickly go through a few of the parameters here that we're going to change. As far as revolutions, you can go ahead and modify that. So if I enter 3, we see we have 3 revolutions of the coil around our cylinder, but we're going to keep that at 1 for now. Height, the important thing to make sure with height, and I'm manipulating height by moving this arrow up and down. So the important thing is, if we look here, we see that the coil kind of comes in. If it doesn't clear the cylinder, it hits a wall here. So we want to make sure to actually go up past the cylinder, the top of it, so we actually clear it. So I'm going to just enter a value of negative 108, and that'll clear it for us. Now we have to do the same thing with the bottom, but I can't do it at this point because we selected this surface when we created our coil. So we are going to end up with this wall here, but we'll fix that in a different way. So we'll go down the line here. Angle, we're not going to change that. And the other important thing to take note is our section size. That's how wide that cylinder is. So if I change this to like 20, we get, you know, bigger section size for that cylinder, but let's keep that at 12.5 for now, and we'll remember that number later because we're going to need it. So that's all the changes there. I'm going to click OK, and there's our cylinder with our coil cut through it. The other important thing, let me double click here, is to make sure you have the operation as cut, not join or no body. So okay, so next let's take care of this wall here that I mentioned, and to do that I'm going to create an offset plane from this bottom face. I'm going to drag this up, and I just want to make sure that it clears this part here. So we're looking at I'll just do -7 millimeters and click OK. Now I'm going to use the split body command to go ahead and cut off that piece. So I'll go to modify split body, choose the cylinder as my body to split, and my splitting tool is going to be that plane I just created. I'm going to click OK. Now if I go and expand bodies here, I see I have this separate body number 2, which I don't need to see anymore. So I'm just going to go down and click remove. I don't need to see the construction plane, so I'm going to uncheck that. And there's our cylinder with our coil through it. Now I want 3 of those, not just 1. So let's go ahead and create a circular pattern. So we'll go to create pattern, and we'll select circular pattern. Pattern type I'm going to keep as faces objects. I'm going to select that face of that coil, and for axis I'm just going to choose this bottom of that circle, or the diameter of that cylinder we made, and that will go ahead and automatically give us, for me it shows as 3 that it generated, but we can change this number to however many patterns we want. I simply want 3, so I'm going to click 3 there and hit OK, and there's our cylinder with 3 coils cut through it. Okay, so the next part we need to do is we need to create another cylinder the same way that's going to thread into this. So basically we need to create the same thing just a little bit smaller so that it fits, right? So I'm going to briefly just show you really quick how not to approach this, and then I'm going to show you how to approach it. So don't really do what I'm doing for the next minute. So just watch for now. So one way that I was going to, or my first approach was to go ahead and say, okay, let me just copy this, and I'll keep one how it is, and then I'll modify second one. So we'll go to body, we'll select copy, and then I'll go ahead and select paste, and then we get these arrows, and I'll move it over, click OK. Now I have one body that I can keep, one that I can change. But here's the problem. If I go back to that original sketch, double click and say, okay, let me make this a smaller, and I'll make this extreme so you can clearly see the difference. So I'll make this 20 millimeters, let's say. Stop, or go ahead and hit enter, stop sketch. And you can see that it modified both of them, which is not what I want. So I'm going to hit Control Z to go back until I only have one body here. And so the next approach I took was, okay, how about if I make this into a component first? So let's create components from bodies, and then I copy that component. So I'm going to copy and paste that component and do the same thing. I'll move it over. Let's try and see how that works. Let's change this from 50 to 20. Stop sketch. Again, we have the same issue. It changes both of them, which we don't want. So Control Z, and I'm going to go back to my component. Here's the trick. You want to go ahead and choose copy, but when you paste, and this isn't really intuitive, so that's why I want to take the time to point this out. When you paste, you go up to where the top of your browser is, where you would normally name, it'd be the name of your file. You would right click, and you're going to click paste new instead of paste. So once you do paste new, and then you move it over, click OK, and I'm just going to hit Shift N because it's going to give me two different colors for my components. It'll just easy way to assign colors to distinguish. So I have my original and the one I pasted, and I'm going to go ahead and now go back to that sketch, modify that sketch. Let's make that 20 again. Stop sketch. There we go. Now we see our original changed, but our paste new did not change. So the paste new feature allows you to make a copy that is not linked to your original model. So let's undo that. So here's both of our models. One is this is our original. This is our one are paste new, and we can see if I click on the bottom, so circumference here, I can see that the radius for both of these is 25. So they're both the same. Now I want one of them to be my outer and one to be my inner. The outer vase I'm not gonna change at all. That's gonna stay as is. So we'll make the green our outer. So I'm gonna go ahead and name it here on our component. Just call that outer, and then we'll make the blue our inner, and that's the one we're gonna go in and change. So again, let's go back to that sketch. Now I'm just going to change this and give it more reasonable number, and I found that an offset of 1.5, I'm sorry, 1.5, and I shouldn't call it an offset. Basically it's a tolerance difference of 1.5 worked well in this case. I did a lot of trial and error printing, and it just worked. Now it seems kind of large, because normally if I was just going to print 2 cylinders and slide them together, I would probably start with like a 0.4 millimeter tolerance. But something with the spirally effect that you know, I guess calls for a bigger tolerance. Again, this just works, so I'm going to go with it. So let's do a difference of 1.5, which is going to give us, instead of 50 millimeters, we're going to do a 48.5 diameter circle, and hit enter and stop sketch. And hard to tell, but if I select this this edge here, I see that that radius is 24.25 when this one is still 25. Okay, so another mistake I made was I said, okay, I'm done, and I printed this out and it didn't fit, and I realized that, oh, you know, when I changed that diameter, I still didn't change the diameter of that coil, right? That they're not linked in any way. So this this sort of diameter here of this coil is the same as this one, and that way they're not going to fit. So let's go ahead and change that. So I'm going to go back to my timeline, double click on my coil feature, and it's that section size we need to change. So I'm going to do the same tolerance difference. I'm going to do a 1.5 millimeter tolerance, which is going to change this from a 12.5 to 14. Now I have to go and make it bigger, because if I go smaller, it's not actually going to work. So let's type 14 there and click OK. And for some reason, whenever I do that, it combines the two components into one spot. So I see I have now one component inside the other. So, but that's okay, because now it allows me to actually see that the tolerance I gave it, that sort of offset. And so that section size, remember I said I had to go bigger. It's almost a little bit counterintuitive, because you would think, oh, I need to make this smaller. But it's that diameter that we're looking at, right? That diameter is now actually bigger than what that original was, which allows it to be inset. So this offers a nice visual. We have that blue inner vase inside the green larger one, and I'm just going to go to that inner and go down to move, and just move this up just a tad, you know, about 0.5 millimeter, just so you can see that visual there, so you actually see what that tolerance looks like. So that looks good. I can print this as is, and that would work fine. But what I'm going to do is sort of provide a little grasping handle here on the bottom, and this will become a little more apparent later why I'm doing this. I'll show you what I intend to do with this project. But basically, I'll go back to a previous finished design. I want it to be something like this, like a little extrusion, sort of a lip to be able to grasp. So to do that, there's a few ways I can approach this. I can, for example, extrude this into a chamfer or a fillet. But the thing to keep in mind is when I print this, I'm going to be using the vase mode. And when you use the vase mode, it just deposits one layer of filament all the way around as it spirals up. And so you have to be really careful about your angles there. If the angle is too shallow, you're going to have problems where the filament is not going to adhere properly. So to kind of contain or keep more control of this, I'm going to approach this by doing a loft. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to untoggle the inner because I just want to work on the outer vase, and then I'm actually going to activate that component by clicking on this radial button. So what I'll do is I'll create a construction plane. So I'm going to do an offset plane. I'm going to click continue, and I'm going to offset this plane 7 millimeters from that surface, and then I'm going to go ahead and create a sketch on that plane. Now on that sketch, what I'm going to do is hit P for project, and I'm just going to project that bottom surface of that model. Click OK, and then I'm going to go ahead and offset that. So I'm going to do offset, select that perimeter, and go out 3 millimeters and click OK. Now I'm going to do stop sketch, and the first thing I'm going to do is give this some thickness. So I'm going to hit E for extrude, select both of these surfaces on that sketch, and extrude down 3 millimeters to give me a 3 millimeter thick layer there. Next, I'm going to just go ahead and do a loft, and I'll go to create loft and choose that bottom surface, or the top surface of that bottom part, and then I'm going to choose the bottom surface of my cylinder here and click OK, and that gives me that sort of nice bottom handle. Alright, so that's it. I can now click the top of my browser to see both designs and bring back that inner design here. Let's move it out the way. Now that we confirmed that at offset it looks good, I'm just gonna right click on that inner, click move, and we'll go ahead and just drag this over, and there's our two models. So let's go ahead and print this really quick just to show you, or I'll send it to the printing utility to show you how I set this up. So I'm going to go to make 3D print, select this, I'll do the outer vase and click OK. Now I'm going to send it to Simplify 3D. So here's my previous model that had scaled up. So to print this with the vase mode, or you just double click on your processes, and whatever you're using for a slicer will usually have a vase mode for you to take advantage of. But in Simplify 3D, basically you go to layer and you just make sure you click this check mark, single outline corkscrew, also known as the vase mode. And you can give it how many top or bottom layers you want. Obviously I'm going to go with 0 top layers because I wanted this to be hollow. It's just going to do that one perimeter, and you can set how many bottom layers you want. So I'm going to go with 3 bottom layers, click OK, and now I can simulate this by clicking prepare to print, and I can play that. And I just briefly want to show you what to keep in mind here. So as I start going, this is that loft that I made, so we can see that it first did the wall straight up, now it's doing that loft, and you have to be careful here because you start seeing these little gaps in between. That's because that angle is starting to change, it's starting to move in. But I experimented with this, and that's okay, even though you can still kind of see through here. That'll print fine. And so next we can just kind of carry this all the way through and see our vase being made. And so that is looking good. Make sure it doesn't fill the top there. Okay, so next I just want to talk about scaling this. So if you for example want to print this to maximum size that you're going to fit in your printer, all you do is with Simplify 3D, and you usually have this feature in any other slicer software, but there's usually an option to scale to maximum size, so I'm going to click on that, and that'll scale this to the maximum size. Now the part I want you to be careful with is if you're printing this to the maximum size and then you bring back the inner part and you're going to scale that as well, you don't want to scale this to maximum size because they're not both the same size, because we added this bottom part here, so their size differences are going to be bigger, and in which you're going to end up, if you scale this to maximum size, they're not going to fit because this is going to end up scaling more than this guy. So what you want to do is when you bring the outer piece to your printing software, once you scale it to maximum size, you want to see what that number is. So in this case it's saying scale factor of 184.47%. So what I'll do is I'll write that down, 184.47. You want to keep that in mind so that when you bring your other model, so we'll make 3D print, click this, click OK, And let's get rid of this guy. Once you scale this to maximum size, so edit, scale to maximum size, notice that that number's changed. Now this is 204. So what we want to do is that scale factor, just bring that back to what that original scale factor was of 184.47. Hit enter. And now it'll be scaled to the same scale factor as the other model. So I just want to point that out to keep that in mind, because the temptation may be to just scale both of them to maximum size and forget that they're actually two different sizes. Alright, so go ahead, try this out and give it a shot. Like I said, the tolerances, you may have to experiment with your own printer, but this is what worked for me, so it's a good place to start. As always, let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos.